This is The Big Conversation on The Breakfast Show here on KBC English Service.
So, statistics time. Did you know that over 70% of family-owned businesses fail by the second generation? And by third generation, that never jumps up to a staggering 90%. Yet, some of the world's most successful enterprises, think of Walmart, think of Ford, think of BMW. Imagine all of them are family-run. And they've been thriving for decades. Dare I say even centuries, you know? So what's the difference between those that crumble and those that last? Here in Kenya, family business fuel our economy, yet so many vanish before they can truly flourish. Why? Mismanagement, sibling rivalries. We saw that play out on TV. Poor succession planning. What can you do? And the list goes on, but what if there was a blueprint? Imagine, what if there's a blueprint to not just survive first generation, future generations joining us to sit down this morning. Not a stranger to the show. You heard from her at 6:48 in the morning talking about what inspires her to get up and get out there. She's a corporate governance expert with a passion for transforming family enterprises, has over 2 decades in law, dual qualifications in business, and a doctorate focused on family businesses. She's helping Kenyan families build legacies that will outlast them. From governance structures, conflict resolutions, she's cracked the code, and she's here to share it with us. She even shared at 6:45 that she makes perfume. And let me tell you, this studio right now, I'll just say, when you leave here, for the next 2 hours, Mirambo and myself will be basking in the awesomeness. This studio smells very nice. Dr. Cathy Mpothia, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I am great. I hear it's super cold outside. That's a shame because I hate cold weather. I can't function in it.
It is very, very cold.
What? Okay. Welcome to the show, and we're so glad that you're going to help us rewrite the future for many Kenya enterprises. We asked a question, by the way, to our listeners. Can family and business make successfully? I shall share with you some very interesting, I'll call it interesting comments. But let's start off with the basics. Corporate governance law isn't something we often hear about regularly in conversation. So, layman's terms, what does this branch of law deal with?
Okay, so thanks, Nick. Basically, corporate governance is basically the study or the art of how entities are managed, are governed, right?
Okay.
So there's a lot that goes into corporate governance in terms of policy making, in terms of structure, in terms of the team delegating, forming committees.
Yeah.
And corporate governance is a branch of law, and there's also corporate governance principles, guidelines, benchmarks, and things like that. So there's corporate governance for almost every sort of business. So today, when we're talking about corporate governance for family business,
right,
it's maybe different from corporate governance for a normal business. Yeah.
So because we're talking about the ones regarding families, what are some of the basic tenets that we need to know about that are very important for families?
For families
to know about.
Okay. When you started, I think you mentioned some of the challenges that family-owned businesses have.
Oh yeah.
So the unique nature of family businesses is that you cannot separate the family relationship and the business relationship. They are sort of like entwined. So the secret of family-owned businesses is that you have to get it right in managing the family relationship, as well as get it right in managing the business side of things. So it's actually very interesting because in terms of managing the family relationship, there's something called family governance.
Family governance.
Family governance. And it is it's been researched over years. So a Kenyan family business and maybe an American family business or wherever it is in the world, they face the same issues. So the nature of the relationship makes family governance important. So there are tools, maybe later in the show, there are certain tools that you can use in managing the family relationship in a structured way. I'll give an example of dispute resolution. How does a family handle conflicts? So something like you mentioned sibling rivalry as a problem that family-owned businesses face, or favorism, for example.
Oh, that's also another one.
Yeah. Things like favorism, things like sibling rivalry, things like entitlement. So how do you manage them? Because these are things that can lead to conflict. So there are certain policies a family can draft. You know, there are certain guidelines that a family can put in place to guide how these situations will be handled. Maybe let me leave it that way for now.
We shall get a little bit more into that. Right now, though, Dr. Mpotia, tell me, when you look at family awareness, let's look at the awareness that families have when it comes to family-owned enterprises in Kenya. Would you want to say that maybe the awareness rate is low enough to contribute greatly to the reason why a lot of family businesses fail after first generation?
I think, Nick, you've nailed it, because I think one of the problems that we have with the family-owned businesses is when they're managed like any other business, in terms of neglecting to understand that they're unique, they're different. So lack of awareness is a very big contribution to why the family-owned businesses fail. Yet in Kenya, we have some very many success stories of family-owned businesses that have succeeded.
Yes, we do.
I met a guy who their family business is in the fourth generation.
Fourth generation? Wow.
And when you talk to them, you come to understand that they have the structures in place. They sought help. They sought professional help in terms of dealing with things like succession planning, dealing with things like having the proper structures in place, and those kind of things. So, but the good news is we're beginning to see more family businesses coming out and seeking that expertise in terms of how do I, especially when it comes to corporate succession planning. You have 8 kids. Which of those 8 kids is going to take over? What is the criteria?
Exactly.
What's the criteria? How do you avoid things like favorism in the succession planning? So the good news is there are experts who guide.
There are experts who can guide. Of course, these experts are not within the family construct. They have to be outsiders to view non-biased.
Sure.
Okay, so Doctor, here I want to ask you one question based on what you just said, and I have to reference one of the listeners who commented this. Where is it? Yaya Minor says, so the question we posed, of course, was, can family and business mix together? Yaya said, never. Family and business can't and should never mix. If it's a business, look for experts, professionals that you can supervise and bring to account, because you can't effectively command your relative. Can you effectively command your relative?
Okay, so thanks for that view. I think it is possible to run, to have family and business mixing together. The oldest family-owned business is a Japanese restaurant, which I think was started in 800 AD.
Wow.
Until today. Till today, it is up and standing. The unique advantage that family-owned businesses have also, there's that little risk that is there, but they also have an advantage in that there's a collective commitment towards a shared vision. There's a collective objective of longevity of the business, for it to run for generations. So if you manage that family relationship correctly, it actually outperforms the ordinary businesses. Research has shown that, for example, during the COVID era, when a lot of, when the business is not family, the motive maybe is more of making profits or things like that, But during COVID, the research shows that the family-owned businesses were more committed to sustaining the business in the long run. If you think like it's your grandfather's, restaurant, you'll have more motivation to make sure that it outlasts you. There's that commitment. True. As opposed to somebody who is employed. For them, their motive is how much can I make out of this business. So there are those success stories. Big corporates like Walmart. Nick, you mentioned Walmart, Ford, BMW. All these are family-owned business. Right? So it does work. It's a model that works.
Okay. You mentioned research, and I was like, okay, I'm about to jump into this one. Let me play you a clip, and then I will ask certain questions that I wanted to ask just before that. But research showed that about 30% family-owned businesses globally survive into second generation, and only 13% make it to the third. Now, you have already given us a couple of the reasons why. I would want to help you buffer up your argument by throwing in some other questions. But first, let's take a listen to what members of the public had their opinion on why family businesses thrive or fail miserably. This is what they had to say.
My name is John from Nairobi County. The main challenge about family business is mainly trust between people. Mostly in families, people don't trust each other in matters concerning the capital.
My name is Alma from Vihiga. No, I've always wanted to, but disagreements in the family have held us back.
Duncan from Meru County. Yes, we started a small grocery shop with my siblings. It is still running today. I think what has kept it going is good communication and trust within the family. Everyone plays their part.
I'm Grace from Migori. Yes, I started a family bakery. It's still running because we focus on quality and treat every customer like a family.
I'm Isaac Simeo from Kikuyu. I've never think of having a family business because we men are strong enough, but women are not strong enough.
My name is Valence from Mombasa County. We have been running kids wear baby shop for 10 years. Discipline has been the key factor.
Shout outs to our production team for going out and sampling some, as you can hear, very varied opinions on why businesses fail. I thought it was so interesting, Doctor, that the guy said that, men are built for creating business, women are, but like 3 out of 4 that we heard were all women. So that was shocking. But I'd like to know, in relation to the statistics above, which one of the comments do you feel are the most common that lead to that's so recurring they lead to these businesses collapsing?
Okay, I think for those who had maybe a skeptical perception, if you listen to all of them, it's about trust, lack of communication, things like that, disagreements, fear of disagreements, and actually, they're right, because the secret to success of a family-owned business is how you manage the family, how you manage that relationship. You don't have to be best of friends. You don't have to, be, BFFs and all that. But there's a structured way, and it is research. It has been applied in other family-owned businesses. Just having a family meeting, maybe frequent family meeting to discuss the issues of a family. It gives every person a chance to be heard. At those meetings, you're able to air your grievances and so on. And there are these other tools that help to manage the family relationship. The constitution, there's something called a family constitution. And in that constitution is where the family members set out their vision together, their values. I've had somebody talking about trust. It's a value.
Trust.
Because when there's a conflict in the values, then you find the business does not work. When there's a conflict in the vision, you find the business does not work. The family constitution is something I would advise everybody with a family-owned business to start with.
So you're saying, if I'm getting this correctly, Doctor, the family has to come up with their own family constitution.
Well, not has to. but if it's possible, right? And I think some of these things are already there in soft, like it's not written down.
It's not written down, but we agree on certain things, like this is how
exactly.
Okay.
There's a lady who said that their family business is working out because of customer.
They treat each customer
that is a value.
Yeah,
that is a value, and it's a shared value. So it is important to have the values, especially as you go down the generations.
True.
As you go to maybe third, fourth generation, the vision can be diluted. And the values can be diluted.
Times will change as well.
Exactly. So it's good to have that in place.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you, because we like solution-oriented things on the show. So let me just touch on the negative just a little bit. Things like laziness and corruption within the family. How those definitely must play a major role in the success of the business. How do you monitor that?
Okay, so let's take something like corruption. So in the family business constitution, when you're setting out the values, it is important for the family to say, this is what we stand for. This is what is a deal breaker. So, for example, maybe you're working in the family business and it comes to light that maybe there's a corruption scandal or something. Then because it has been written down, you can be held to account. And you can be whatever the family decides. And something like laziness, there's something called a family employment policy.
A family employment policy.
Right. That sets out, these are the policies I was talking about, that sets out maybe the criteria of joining the family business, the values, just like a HR policy. And when there's when that policy is flouted, then somebody can be held to account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go back to the positive. If we're looking at businesses like the Fords, the Chandarias, the Bidcos, stood the test of time. From your experience and research, the secret behind it, just beyond, because it obviously goes beyond having a stable family constitution, secrets that could help other family businesses thrive. What would they be?
Okay, so when we take the example of businesses that have been there for generations, so other than managing the family relationship well, there's also the business side of things. Having good corporate governance structures, right? So we are talking of things like having proper management structures, a good organizational structure, such that the family members, a good relationship between the non-family employees and the family employees. So maybe let's say your kid is working in the business. How does this kid relate with non-family employees in a way that enhances productivity? When it comes to corporate succession planning, how do you go about it? You don't have to choose your family member to succeed you. So let me take an example of a business where they've chosen a family member. So what happens is they mentor that family member. They get into capacity building. They get into training.
Oh, that's good.
And all that. So this person is prepared to take over. But in another scenario where you find a family member, maybe you don't have anyone interested in that business.
Oh, there could be that too.
Yeah. Nobody is interested in taking over. Or maybe they're running their own passions. They're doing their own things. Or sometimes they don't have the capacity. It is not bad to recruit from outside. It's not bad to get an external CEO, because this person, it's for the best interest of the business. So it's just to ensure that the structures are there in place. But even this CEO that you're getting from outside needs to know that they are operating within a family environment. So in the success stories we've seen, they have another top structure called the family council.
Family council.
Yeah. So the family council is comprised of members of the family, right? It has a chairperson, it has members. And then the business sometimes is led to, to do its own thing. but the business has to be accountable to the family council, so that the business is not totally independent of the family views. But let me say something, Nick. The structure that you use for your family business, it is on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
There's no one size fits all. Just like families are different. So the structure that fits a family is very different, is very bespoke.
So is it correct to assume that some members of the family council can also be very active in the daily operations of the family business?
In fact, that is a recommended, because they will have the information, they will have, the perspective. So they have both perspectives. They have the perspective of the family and they have the perspective of the business. So maybe the family decides, we want to be an impact business. How are they going to communicate that to the business? Through the family council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the brief you shared with our production crew, we noticed something that in Kenya, most successful family businesses are owned by families of Asian origin. Now, they must know something and they're not sharing. So is there a cultural, is it a structural thing that they do differently and so well?
The big secret, yeah. So,
Big secret.
I've had the privilege of talking to a few of them. There was that guy in the 4th generation. I talked to somebody else in the 3rd generation. And there are so many reasons. So the first reason is for them, they are mentored early. If you go to any Asian shop, you will find kids.
You will find a kid there. This is true. I thought they couldn't afford babysitters.
You will find kids. So this guy has been exposed to the business, the ins and outs from an early age. So by the time it's time to, to hand over, they are very, very well prepared for the business, right?
That's good.
And then the other thing is, I think there's one I talked to who said for them, they don't have rivalry. This thing of sibling rivalry, they are taught from an early age how to, that the family relationship is superior to even the business. That you had rather let the business go and remain as a family than disintegrating as a family because of a business. You get? So there's a value perspective of the Asian businesses. Okay. And then in this generation or in this age, a lot of them have gotten experts. A lot of them have family councils. A lot of them have mediation. Have you ever seen them going to court?
I cannot say I have.
Yeah?
I cannot say I've ever, actually.
Yeah, you know what happens? They have their mediation mechanism where the community...
There are wrangles, they just never get to... They don't allow it to get to that level.
Yeah, because when you go to court, you'll go and get court orders to stop the management of the business. How much are you paying your lawyer? So at the end of the day, who benefits? It's the lawyer. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it's the lawyer. So for them, they have very good dispute resolution. There's good mentorship and their values. They have very strong values. And I think culture plays a role where I think the sons, I think it's a patriarchal community and it is well understood by everybody. There's no dispute about who is the heir. They know maybe the firstborn son, and there's no problem, and nobody has a problem. Lakini huku,
let's talk about Lakini huku, because for the benefit of those who never watched that, and you should please go on YouTube after this and I think we just type Tuskie's family drama. We'll all remember how wild and it played out in the news. Is there a similar worst case scenario that you have witnessed as a result of not setting up a proper family council, perhaps?
Okay. I'll be careful not to name any business that we know, but they're there. They're there. Actually, if you even check the reported cases in the court cases, there are some reported cases. There's one case, maybe I can say the worst case scenario. So this couple owned a hotel in Rongai.
Wow.
I will leave it there because if I say more, you'll know what I'm talking about. So they owned a hotel and it was doing very well. Then they get into a divorce. So what happens? They don't see eye to eye. The business was badly affected because they cannot even, sign checks. They cannot pay salaries.
Oy.
So the place was run down. Then they went to court, fighting over the business, like who owns the business. And basically they had to close. And there was that case of some club on Langata Road. They know, you know what I'm talking about, right? It used to be a very big club owned by a couple, but when they were going through a divorce, it actually completely closed.
In those cases, the business ends up folding.
Exactly. Because of a mismanaged conflict. Because even if you're going through a divorce, it does not have to affect your business.
It doesn't, right?
Yeah? You can sell your shares. You can, there are other ways you can continue to manage the business. You can get a management. You can both step out of the business and give it to a management company to manage it for you, and then you earn the dividends. It doesn't have to close,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to close. We're looking for solutions here. 27 minutes to 9 o'clock. It's the big conversation on KBC English Service. I'm joined by Dr. Cathy Mputhia. She is a corporate governance lawyer who also has a lot of great wealth of knowledge when it comes to family-owned businesses, and she helps a lot of families out here work with their businesses. Now, Doctor, here's a scenario where, and you had alluded to this earlier. So we have family business. One child is working there. The other one is like, don't really feel like those things. They're doing their own thing. But, I mean, family business, there are stakes. So we have this kid who's like, but I literally work for this family every day. You go, you do your radio thing, but you always tell guys, that it's our family business. Am I entitled to equal share, or how do we go about this?
That's a very good question, because it's one of the things that bring dispute. So for the person that works in the business, they should be rewarded more. And
fair.
and there are things like a salary, benefits, commissions, and there's also sweat capital. You find maybe sometimes, because this guy was in the business, that's why the business has become what it is.
Okay,
right? So they need to be rewarded. It's a principle of life. Now, for the one who is not working in the business, I feel like in most cases, by virtue of being a family member, they can earn dividends. Dividends. You don't to hear your grandchild is begging for food on the streets just because they don't work for you. There's a way now. So what happens? All family members get dividends, right? But the one who works in the business is rewarded
the most.
Yeah, because they are not a slave for their family. They need also to be rewarded. So but you also have to make the guys who don't work in the business understand that it's not favorism. It is reward.
It's reward.
Right? Yeah.
If you want more, start suiting up, come 9 to 5 and do the thing. So, Doctor, what about, because succession, now that we're talking about succession, we've seen how many African families struggling with that. I like the modes done by the Asians. Well, from a young age, they expose you to the business. Okay, now in our context, what's the best way of preparing the young ones for business without forcing them into it? Because now the other likelihood, I saw this one time of a kid was forced to, and it was a, well, sorry to say, it was a law company, and everyone was a lawyer, father lawyer, mother lawyer, brother's lawyer. Him not so much, but was forced to, and he does something in a law capacity, but he felt forced. So what do we do in these situations where we want them to learn about the business because we know how profitable it is and how profitable it can be for them and their kids, but they're not showing interest?
So, that's also another scenario, because you can force someone to get into the family business and, give up their dreams, give up their passions. And you find somebody getting depressed, because there's that fire in them that wants to do something else. So I feel like maybe for the founders, it's important maybe to give everyone a chance. And there's another angle where somebody wants to maybe work in their family business but is not given a chance, right? You get, so I think it's good during these family meetings to have that exposure, but also let someone have a freedom of choosing what they want to pursue. and not being being penalized for that, right? So there's one of the leading hotel brands where I don't know how many generations now, but the current heir is I think she's a socialite or an actress, you know. Like she has not been put two and two together, right? So allow people to pursue their visions, but also mentor the ones who are interested. So someone just doesn't show interest and you're like, okay, you're the next CEO. Also mentor them and bring them up. And also for someone who is interested in serving, you can also give them that chance if there's a chance. Because something else that kills family businesses is you bring everyone in the family. You have 30 grandchildren and then you're looking for jobs for them within the business. So that business will not last. I guess I want to assume that maybe all businesses, when it's first generation, there's a very high likelihood that almost everyone is family. Yeah. But as it grows, expand, it would be weird if everyone in a company of 100 and we're all relatives. It's like a family function every day. And you don't even know your cousins. You don't even know you're related to these guys. You work for us. I always work for you. I'm your second cousin. What? Wild. Now, Doctor, we want to always compete on the international stage. We can't avoid it because now everyone has been plunged onto the global scale. Yeah. In the international stage, rather. From your research at the University of Gloucester, what are some of the international best practices that Kenyan family businesses can adopt? Okay. So basically, globalization has to do with expansion, I suppose, right? Yeah. And it's very important to consider global strategy in terms of attracting investment, in terms of serving outside, in terms of attracting partnerships, right? Let me say something. Investors are also afraid of getting caught up in that family business setup because they're afraid that these disputes and whatever can dilute their investment. So it's let me give an actual example. So what we are advising some family-owned businesses to do is to form a holding company that they own. Okay, what's a holding company? A holding company is a company that is formed to acquire another company. So they form, let's say, Nick Holding Company. All your family members are there. Okay. Have your family governance things there. Awesome. But now Nick Holding Company comes to acquire your business. To acquire the business. Right? And that structure allows an investor to come in. Because your family governance is not within this business. It's within the holding company. Right? I'll get you. So this one is run like just a normal business. Then in terms of going global, we are also asking, a lot of people are coming and asking, how do we do offshore companies? And offshore companies, it's a model a lot of high net worth family owned businesses are getting into, and there are advantages. Some of the advantages is it's easy to borrow. Imagine taking a loan at 2%. 2% per annum. 2%. That's UAE. Hey, that's UAE, right? That's a great deal. Yeah, but now, so they form the company offshore, and they're able to get funding. They're able to now go global. Let's say now from UAE, now you're able to hit other markets. Somewhere like Mauritius had tax benefits. So the income that you make here as a business. The tax, like in UAE, it's 0% to some certain extent. How will you pay tax and you've made money, right? So offshore companies enable you to do tax planning. They enable you to do structures that you could not do here. And then the dispute of that company will not be subject to Kenyan law. It will be subject to the law of that place. Yeah. So like UAE has a family business law. Right? And a family, mpaka even the mediation is done as per their law. So in terms of going global, and there are many structures you can use so that you don't look like, there's this one in Rwanda where like everything, the water, the soap, the tissue, I think it's owned by a family. And then it's very local because even the name is the family name. But now thinking global, there are so many things: funding, markets, branding. Yeah.
Finally, the concept of offshore accounts finally makes sense.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Come and open a file.
Offshore.
Yeah.
Okay, the youth in this country, high unemployment rate still there. Do you think that when it comes to family-owned businesses, there's a policy or sorts that the government could can come up with that could help really absorb a lot of the young people and hopefully fix up this situation of having such a high unemployment rate, given the fact that, again, almost more than half of the country is really, really young?
Yeah, so 80% of Kenyan businesses are actually family owned.
80%?
80%. Because what's a family business? It's a business that's owned by 2 or more family members. There's another definition that says 25% ownership. So even some listed companies are family owned businesses. So modeling the UAE law or modeling other jurisdictions with a law, I feel like the government can come up with a guideline, a policy to equip family-owned businesses in certain things. I think it's is it Holland, where they say that if it's a family farm, you cannot sell it without approval, you see. So if you look at the UAE law, it's very... you see, the framework in which family-owned businesses operate does not care about the family aspect of things. But if the government could come up with guidelines, because you cannot police, you also cannot impose a law on a family. But if you could come up with some sort of guidelines and some sort of policy just to guide so that we see more longevity.
Yeah.
Then the government can also come up with some, what can I say, incentives. Like
we like incentives, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe absorbing this youth as interns or whatever, and then the family business also gets an incentive for doing that. Maybe some sort of tax deductions or whatever. So that, because 80%.
You know what, you said 80%.
Yes.
At first I doubted, and then I literally just saw in my head when you drive on the traveling up country, for example, and then you see this shop called Joy Rose, Joy Nick, Kimani Nini. I'm just like, wait, these are all pretty much family-owned businesses.
Yeah. And some of them are big. They sustain even the county. Jose was in...
Like that paint one.
Yeah. Yes, the paint one. There are these supermarkets in Ukambani.
Yes.
Now, imagine if that thing closes, how many people will be affected? The community, the guys who work there, So there's everything to win by supporting family businesses.
We should write out a letter to the government and front some of those policies. They sound like they can definitely make changes.
Yes.
Now, in many African family businesses, in-laws and spouses can also, because some of them play unofficial but very influential still roles within that. So let's talk about how the families can define the involvement of in-laws, spouses.
I love what you've said about define, because it's important for every family to sit down and agree beforehand who is going to be part of this business and to what level, right?
Okay.
So there's a case where I think I don't want to name names, but the dispute even in the marriage came about because one of the owners, this is husband and wife, so one of them wanted to bring their child from outside. So they wanted to bring their stepchild into the business without asking, and it brought drama in the business, it brought drama in the marriage. So it's for every family to sit down and define that this is how we are going to, this is the definition of who a family member is, or this is the levels of participation we are committed to. Because trust me, there are some in-laws who are amazing. They can take the business to the next level. But yeah, and then look at the area of things like divorce.
Yeah.
So you've brought someone into the business, then there's a divorce. Your entire business is shaken up by Everyone is shaken up by that thing.
Suddenly there is a person who was part of now
is not part of the family.
Isn't. What happens?
And then look at the case of, let's say, adopted children.
Oh.
You have to agree, are they going to be part of the lineage? I know someone who said, no. My business that I've built with my wife is only for my children and the biological
kids
lineage. There are others who say it's okay. There are others. So what I can say, it's on a case-by-case basis. I cannot advise a family what to do, what not to do. It is for them to decide, but put it in the constitution.
Put it in the constitution.
So that you don't have this other people coming, taking you to court, saying, 50% of this company is mine, those kind of things. Put it in the constitution.
Put it in the constitution. It will save a lot of headache. Would you say, Dr. Mpute, in your experience, you've observed this thing happening where the sons are getting large positions when it comes to leadership, when it comes to the stakes in the family-owned business, as compared to the women, to the daughters?
I think I didn't make that observation. It depends on the cultural aspects, right? Our business also exists in a cultural framework, right? And the African culture is patriarchal. Though there are some, I don't know, did I say that? I didn't say that. But somewhere like India, research has shown that 90% of succession goes to the sons. You might find a daughter who is more, has more capacity.
True.
But now in that research in India, it was family farms. And they say that sometimes that is not looked into. It's as long as you're the boy, whatever, you get it. So the advice, or from the research done by IFC and others, they say succession should be meritorious. Not gender, not order of birth.
You get it because you earned it.
Yeah, exactly. That you qualify. And there's, it's meritorious, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk on advice to a founder who is struggling to hand over control to the next generation. It could be for whatever reason. Maybe because the founder will always be like, I'm the one who came up with this idea. Yeah. So ultimately, I respect a founder believing that they are the smartest person in the business. That's me. That's just me.
Yeah,
but
true.
Because of this, I might have struggles trying to hand over control, even when I'm being told, but this guy is so good. So how do you go about that? What's your advice to that person?
Okay, it's something called founder syndrome.
Founder syndrome.
Yeah.
It's actually a thing.
It's
labeled.
Thing.
Beautiful.
So what happens is, like you've said, the founder has poured their sweat, has poured their, their tears into this business. So what happens? It becomes like a relationship. Actually, it becomes, the way you invest in a relationship.
Yes.
It becomes almost like a relationship. So what happens when you're telling the founder to give up and, let go? It's like you're telling someone to break up with, just like a normal breakup. So for founder syndrome, I think again, I like what you've said. It's their business. Right?
It is.
It is. It is. They own it. So they can do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
They can stay however long they want. But for those who maybe have decided it's time, it's good to do it gently and in a structured way. There's something when I think there are some things called founders' rights from the research we've done. There's something called founders' rights. They have the right to choose whoever who is taking over. It's their right. They have the right to choose the family council. They have the right to determine how the succession will go. So the only advice maybe is to also they have a role in preparing the next generation in terms of mentorship, in terms of capacity building, in terms of building the harmony. That I think that's a founder's role. To build a harmony and a good relationship amongst all their kids. Because if you go cold turkey and say, nimesema, ni huyu, go hang. If you have a problem, shauri yako. You will create a problem in the family. So it's also good for founders to get expert advice on how to do it in a way that is a win-win for everybody. And those experts are there. I have a friend, a very good mediator, who also sits with founders and helps them, and sometimes in choosing a successor, you find it's even bias. It's not merit, and they are helped to see.
True.
Sometimes in rejecting, those black sheep of the family, quote unquote, you reject somebody, but you find it's just a personality clash. So they are helped to see these things. Yeah, so.
Oh, that's excellent. On that one, what's your recommendation on office, on conflict resolution mechanisms that, especially when we look at things like money, inheritance, status, what's the recommendation on that one?
Good one. I recommend mediation. For family. So I recommend. I normally recommend a model that's patterned on the Bible. Very funny, but the model I recommend is first try and talk. When you are grieved with somebody, try and talk it out, the two of you. Yeah. If you're not able, get a third person. If you're still not able, get internal mediation within the family, right? If you're completely not able, then get an external mediator. The difference between a mediator and a lawyer is that a mediator, the primary motive of mediation is to save the relationship. It's not about interests. It's about this relationship. Yeah. And a lot of domains that happen in this setup, it's not even what guys are fighting about. It could be something like attention. So, because someone feels like, okay, you're not giving me attention, I'm going to be very stubborn when it comes to making decisions in the business. But a mediator is trained to have that third ear, to be able to pick up. The issue here is somebody feels left out. The issue is not property. The issue is somebody does not feel loved.
They don't feel seen.
They don't feel seen. So, a mediator will... The focus is to work to save that relationship. The focus of mediation is win-win. In court, it's win-lose.
Win-lose.
Yeah, there's a loser, there's a winner. Mediation, you're all winners.
Yeah, we like that. And mediation, you want to assume, is cheaper than lawyers?
So, a good mediator, I feel mediation is like a calling. It's like a calling of reconciliation. If you go to these mediators who are doing it for money, they will not even solve your problem. But if you go to a mediator whose passion is to see people living together peacefully and so on, then they will. I think the court system has now recognized mediators. There's a court annexed mediation. I think that one is free actually, but mediators are cheaper. It's cheaper. It's cheaper than legal.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so, Doctor, for families listening, what's the first step that you would want to advise them to take if they want to future-proof their business?
Okay, first step is just have a meeting with your family members, air your issues, have a meeting maybe to discuss things like your vision, values, talk about strategy, and in this meeting, don't dismiss anybody's idea.
Indeed.
Let everybody be heard. Okay? There are certain checklists, but that's for me, that we have developed which can aid the conversation. Then the first thing, just have a constitution.
Have a constitution.
It will set out, the constitution is the foundation of even the country. So it's a foundation. Keep talking. When there's a grievance, listen. Don't dismiss anybody, and don't judge. Don't say huyu hata alikuwa hivi akiwa mtoto, alikuwa kichwa ngumu. We are not shocked. Yeah. Just listen to everybody and know that now this is a biblical perspective, but the fact that you're in a family together, you were brought there together by God, and everybody has a role. Even the way some people say this one is a danda, we got a E or a D minus, bure kabisa. No, because that guy could be the one who has people skills, has social capital.
Indeed.
You see, so having those conversations going, and also getting into things that build the relationship. Go for outings, go for retreats, talk. And as you talk, the family becomes strengthened and you will see that fruit in the business.
Man, let's let this be more than just a conversation, a wake-up call. This is a learning moment. I knew we would learn a whole lot this morning, and this is an invitation to build legacies that will outlive our lifetimes. Dr. Cathy Mpothia, thanks so much for coming in this morning. Constitutional governance lawyer and also the go-to person when it comes to matters family-owned businesses. She will definitely sort you out. Thank you so much for coming in. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Nick. Have a good day.
This is The Big Conversation on The Breakfast Show here on KBC English Service.